Shalom everybody, Akiva here, hope you're doing well. Once again, we're just before Shabbat, and I want to share with you guys a thought in this week's Torah portion. Tetzaveh, a lot of things going on, as usual. But also what's special about this week's Torah portion is actually two things that I want to touch upon. Is one, that it's the Shabbat right before Purim. Right? Motzei Shabbat and Saturday night begins Purim already. We'll be hearing the reading of the Megillat Esther. And it also makes the Shabbat something we call Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat where we read an additional passage of the Torah that mentions the special mitzvah of remembering, Zachor, remembering the mitzvah of wiping out Amalek from the world. Right? So we're going to talk about those two things briefly. So let's get started because there's so much to talk about, as usual. So I want to start actually with Parshat Zachor, I think. And it's just very interesting, just like one little nikuda, one little point. Right? There's always a million things to say about any aspect of the Torah, but one thing about Parshat Zachor, the reading of this special passage about wiping out Amalek, it sounds very intense, like wiping out Amalek, like that's intense. It's like, why do we need to do that? Right? But when we go back into Jewish history and back into the stories of the Torah, we know, we remember, we learn that Amalek was the nation that had the chutzpah to attack Israel, the nation of Israel, right after it left Egypt. Right? We learned that when the Jews left Egypt, the whole world knew about the unbelievable miracles that were taking place, the unbelievable redemption. Right? Everyone was kind of frozen with awe. You know, it's unbelievable what was going on in the world. Like never before has the world seen such an event, such a redemption. Right? A whole nation just leaving slavery like that. And one nation dared to fight with the nation of Israel, and the chutzpah to step up and fight against that awe. Right? And that was Amalek. Right? We learned many details that they attacked Israel from the back, all these different things. But as a result of that one moment in time in history, since then, up until today and into the future, we have this mitzvah, this commandment, right, to as much as we can to wipe out Amalek from the world. Right? And Amalek represents the deepest evil in the world. Right? Amalek represents the darkness of this world. And we have this mitzvah, this holy action that we're supposed to bring into our lives of getting rid of that darkness. Now, who is Amalek today and how do we get rid of that darkness? Right, there's lots to say about that, but one thing that comes to mind right now is something that's said about the last Lubavitch Rebbe. And somebody went up to him and said, there's so much darkness in the world, how can we possibly fight all the evil in the world? And he said, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, our job is not to fight the darkness, our job is to increase the light. Right? And of course, as a natural result, as we increase the light, we wipe out the darkness. Right? So with this Parsha, the special reading of Zachor, of remembering, right? We're being instructed to remember what Amalek did, to remember that there exists this thing called Amalek, called evil, called darkness in the world. Don't be blind from it. Be very aware. It's a very real reality. It doesn't take much to understand that today. Look on the front page of probably any newspaper in the world and we can understand that there is darkness, there is real evil in the world. And we need to be aware of that. We need to know that and we need to remember that. Right? So we have this mitzvah, this Shabbat of remembering that we live in a world with evil. And then what happens like the very next day, this year at least? Purim. What's Purim about? A million things. But what's one thing that's happening on Purim that we're supposed to connect to, supposed to get to? This place, ad de lo yada, right? This place of not knowing. This place of going beyond the good, the bad, the dark, the light, the this, the that, the me, the you, and tapping into the unity of everything, right? Seeing the oneness that pervades, that just weaves through all of creation, right? And getting to a place in our minds and our beings that's beyond these dichotomies of good and evil. Right? And there just is. Right? There's perfection, there's being, there's oneness. So it's really interesting, right? It's really interesting. We go from Shabbat remembering, yes, there's evil in the world, yes, there's darkness in the world, and that basically, frames our whole existence and what we're doing here and the holy work we're supposed to be engaged with. And then we get to Purim, it's just like boom. like everything gets shattered. It's just like, remember, evil, what are you talking about? Evil, there's evil in the world? It's all beautiful, it's all one, right? And we're going beyond our minds. Of course our minds always hold on to that. Come on, there is evil in the world. But in Purim, we're going beyond our mind. Right? We're tapping into that future reality that one day will come, hopefully soon in our days. Right? And we're getting a glimpse of what that will be. We learn that Purim, right? Even though it's not from the Torah, even though it happened after the Torah was quote-unquote sealed, so to speak, right? In terms of at least the 5 books of Moses, right? That it's like the first of the holidays that gets kind of constructed by the Jewish people, right? By the leaders of the Jewish people, right? Even though it's not written in the Torah, it's in the future time, right? When everything's going to change tremendously and all the holidays are going to become like null and void, right? Purim is going to last. Purim is going to still remain. There's a very deep power of Purim, right? We're tapping into something very, very deep. We're tapping into the future reality of oneness, of perfection, right? How do we get there? By remembering, right? We're going to remember the Shabbos very, very deeply, right? The reality, the nature of our world right now. And then Purim, we're blasting off, right? Purim, we're already in Geula, we're already in redemption, right? We're tasting that redemption so we don't forget, right, what we're going for. We need a little taste of redemption to remind us, but also to motivate us for the entire year, right, what we're supposed to be doing in this world, right? Please God, we should be able to taste that and be able to do the holy work. One last quick thought about the Parsha itself. Just like I said last week, we're starting to learn about the Mishkan. We're going to be learning about it for a while. And this week we're talking about different aspects of the Mishkan, a lot about the clothing, the holy clothing that the Kohanim, the priests, wore when they worked in the Mishkan and eventually in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. So again, this idea of the Mishkan, this traveling temple of the Jews. And it's very interesting because the Mishkan, right, we learn was a structure that was built by the people, built by Am Yisrael, by the nation of Israel. And the nation was instructed already, last week we learned, to bring all these different materials, all these different physical materials to be able to build the actual structure. And then all the artists and the artisans got together and used those physical raw materials to build this beautiful Mishkan. So, it's this very interesting idea of taking these very physical objects and turning them into something very holy. Right? We're taking this physicality and we're like spiritualizing. We're like infusing with spirituality. So that the end result is no longer just like gold and wood and silver and some like beautiful cloth. It's something that like vibrates with holiness. Right? And a teaching I learned actually last week regarding this process is that the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, in making the Mishkan, so just got a little cut off there, but we'll continue with what we were saying. Right, so that process of building the Mishkan from these raw materials, from these physical objects, with this physical labor, basically showed the nation of Israel, and the whole point of that process was to show the nation of Israel that there's holiness all around them. Right? That on one level, the Mishkan was supposed to make a home, so to speak, for God in the world. Right, a place where the Jewish nation can go and connect to holiness and connect to God and connect to something totally beyond this physical world. Right? But at the same time, that process was meant to show them that, hey, guess what? God's everywhere. There's holiness everywhere. It's not just in one place. Right? Remember, everywhere your eyes look, there's God, there's holiness. Right? So we're building this structure, not just to say, okay, there's holiness there, there's God there, but nowhere else. No, it's to engage in this process, to remind ourselves, to remember, to be shown, to learn that it's everywhere. Right? It's everywhere. Connecting to that, right? Connecting to that idea, we go to Purim, right? Coming up in just a couple of days. And on Purim, we learn again that we're taking very physical things and we're using them, so to speak, to reach this very elevated spiritual level. Right? We're instructed, we have a mitzvah of having a meal on Purim, right? To eat, to feast, to like enjoy the physical bounty of this world, to drink a lot, right? To engage in like intoxication, right? And really use these physical things of the earth, right, in order to elevate ourselves spiritually. So again, like the Mishkan, Purim has this aspect of using physicality to elevate ourselves spiritually, right? So this connection. when we go back to the Mishkan, though, there's a very interesting teaching. Right? There's two opinions that did the Mishkan come into the reality of the Jewish people after Moses came down from the mountain and broke the tablets because he saw the whole scene with the golden calf, or is it before? And there's an opinion that says that the Mishkan actually was not an ideal reality. Only after God saw that the Jews fell so quickly back into idol worship when they were waiting for Moshe, and then he didn't come down and they made the golden calf. So he basically said, okay, they need a Mishkan, they need something physical. They can't take this purely abstract, spiritual, formless reality. Right? And they need something physical. We're going to give them the Mishkan. But it was not ideal. It wasn't what it was supposed to be ideally. Right? But okay, reality changed. The Jews did certain things. They showed that they needed the physical Mishkan. Beseder, they have it. Right? But again, it's interesting. It's not ideal. We were supposed to ideally be Jews, be a Jewish nation, be a holy people without any physical place or structure. Just every day of our lives, everywhere we go, anywhere we are, be able to tap into that godliness, be able to tap into that holiness. Amazing. Back to Purim, check it out. Last thing I want to share with you is like this. The Nitivot Shalom, written by the Rebbe of Slanim, says that where do we learn that we're supposed to get intoxicated basically on Purim, we're supposed to drink, right? From the Gemara, and it says that a person is obligated to get drunk on Purim. But the language, the Aramaic, there says that a person is supposed to get, or is obligated to get intoxicated, beporia. Chayv inish levusume, beporia, ad delo yada. Right? If you translate those words specifically, it says a person is supposed to get intoxicated on Purim. So the Nitivot Shalom has this beautiful way of reading that, by saying, it doesn't say anything about drinking alcohol, it doesn't mention wine at all. It says on Purim. The day itself is so holy, it's such an elevated day, that if we're able to tap into the energy of the day itself, we can become intoxicated. We don't need drink at all. Right? Of course, that's the ideal reality, right? In our, let's call it less than ideal reality, we use the physical things, we eat the food we eat, we drink the drinks that we drink on Purim to reach that state. But ideally, we are able to tap into this high elevated reality of Purim without any intoxication, without any alcohol, without any wine at all. So perhaps Purim comes at this time of the year, just as we're starting to learn about the Mishkan, to remind us, to show us that not only on this one day of Purim that we can connect to this elevated reality without any physical substances, any physical materials, right? But our whole lives. Right? Our whole lives, every single day, every day that we wake up in this world, we have the ability to see, to feel, to tap into holiness, godliness everywhere, in every person, in everything. And we learn that one day it will be like that. Right? The words of the prophets show us that one day we're going to walk around the world and it's going to be clear as day. Right? It's going to be as clear as day. Everywhere we look is going to be just radiating. Right, holiness, right, and that will change the nature of humans completely, the nature of this world completely. We should be blessed to have an amazing Shabbat, an amazing Purim, and to tap into these next couple of days with remembering and with the Mishkan and with Purim. You know, right now we're in the reality of using physicality. Great, that's what we should. We should use physicality in the holiest way, right, on Purim and every day, right. But just know that one day that we won't even need that anymore. Right? And we should be blessed to really tune into that, to remember that, share that with others, bring beauty to the world, and create the holy, holy world that this world is meant to be. Lots of love from the land of Israel. Shabbat Shalom and good Purim.